Hey guys, Brett here for TopoRanger. How you doing? Today we are at House Rock and we're going to be looking for the long lost House Rock Hermit's shelter cave. All right, we're at I think it's called the Clark Nature Preserve in Lancaster County, and we're going to be exploring around the area of House Rock. So first thing we should do is we should hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and follow me on all the platforms. And then we're gonna just head down the ridge here. River's over there, parking lot's here. Cool ruins right here by the parking lot. We gotta head down this way to get to House Rock. Once we're at House Rock, then we can get a better idea of how the ridge goes down to the river. And I'll talk more about the backstory of this adventure because it is a very cool backstory concerning Colonel John Mead, all right? So first things first, let's get down to the rock. Say hi to the trail cam. All right, we're just a little bit down the trail. We're not at House Rock yet, but I'm just walking down the trail that I think goes to the House Rock. And I see this giant concrete tower and there's ruins here. Now I have seen this tower before in some pictures, but it's very vague as to what, my memory is very vague as to what it is. But maybe it's a water tower, I don't know. I've never, or a grain tower, I've never seen a tower like that, but there are ruins here. We'll come on the way back, we'll hit this up and see if we can't check that out. Right now we're gonna keep heading down this trail. Hopefully this trail ends at House Rock. We made it to House Rock. Here we are. Now for some reason I had it in my mind that there was much of a cliff here, but I'm very much wrong. We're looking at probably an 80-foot drop. And there's the river. That might be Duncan Island, Duncan Run on the York side, and this is where it gets really narrow and the pinnacle's right there. Now there is a carving that says House Rock. Here it is. That almost looks like Mouse Rock. But yeah, this is somebody carved that in a long time ago. And there's a lot of historical graffiti, let's call it. So who was Colonel John Mead? Let me just get down in the rock here so I don't, it's kind of windy today and I don't want to get too much wind noise. Okay, so Colonel John Mead was this guy who spent a large portion of his life living in rock shelter overhang caves right down in this area of the Susquehanna. Uncharted Lancaster has an article about it. It talks about his 3 different locations that he lived at. People think he might have been a Civil War veteran who had PTSD from the war, and maybe that's why he chose to live a life, you know, outside of the outside of the mainstream. He was known to live at 3 different locations, 3 different rock shelters. The first one was not far from here. Apparently, I think he was kicked out of there when they came through. With a railroad came through and he had to leave that one. Then he came to the one which is supposedly right here below House Rock, and he lived here for the longest amount of time. Then he went to a third one, which they think that might have been between Tuquan Glen and Reed Run. Now the last one he only lived at for a year and a half, maybe 2 years before there was a big fire and he got ill and then he went to the hospital. I think he spent the last year in the hospital and before he passed away. But this one here was where he lived the longest. And he was known as the House Rock Hermit. The Susquehanna Ramblers is a local group. I'll leave a link in the description here. I don't know if you watched the second part of the episode where we go kayaking. I'll put a link to that one up too. We visited a guy named Jay, and he actually lives on an island in the river. Him and some other guys from his group, the Susquehanna Ramblers, actually came out here and have looked for this cave. Now they have not found it, but they were they cleared up some things, I think, with the timeline in terms of where he lived and what was destroyed and what wasn't. In the Uncharted Lancaster article, it says that his second location where he lived, meaning the one here at House Rock, was destroyed also by the railroad. However, they found a picture, the Ramblers found a picture dated 3 or 4 years after the railroad came through, of him, and I'll put that picture up on the screen right now, of him sitting in his shelter with with some visitors sitting there. And they think that this was actually the House Rock location. It wasn't the House Rock, which is right here, and it probably isn't anything directly below us. There were 2 other locations called House Rock, which were down by the river. There was one that was used by fishermen, and there was also one that had a big overhang that was like a tourist spot where people used to come down here and hike down and go visit this really beautiful overhang cave. Now this is before the dam, okay? So the river would have looked much different. Now when they dammed up the river to create Lake Aldred, basically the one was underwater and the other one was destroyed when they came through and they renovated the railroad. What the Ramblers seem to think is that this entire nose of the ridge that dives down into the Susquehanna here, the whole thing is known as House Rock. So if they say, well, Colonel Mead lived the longest at the House Rock location, and they found that picture that was dated after the railroad upgrade, which destroyed the other one, right? Then it must still be here, right? And to me, that makes perfect sense. Now they've been here, the Ramblers have been here, I think they've been here several times, and they found a lot of shelter caves, but nothing that looked like the one in that picture, because they're saying that picture is the House Rock location of Colonel John Mead. So basically what we're going to do today is go down there. From here down, there's a stream there, okay? Stream valley right there. And then the railroad's at the bottom. Right here, there's a plunging nose of this ridge goes down. And if you look at the LiDAR, there's all kinds of rocks. I'm pretty sure down here is where where the Ramblers were looking for it. And we're not out of the woods in terms of, windy here, in terms of the vegetation, but that's why I brought the machete. All right, so we got this. They seem to think that it's possible that they couldn't see it because it was too overgrown, which is very possible because things get pretty wild down here by the river. But with the machete and that picture, we should be able to find it. Now, there's 2 things. There is the rock shelter itself could have collapsed in the intervening time, right? Or it could just be grown over. Now, if it's grown over, ultimately that shouldn't stop us from finding it. However, if the rock shelter itself is collapsed, we may not be able to find it. But with that picture, I don't see why we can't, use that picture and certain lines and the way the rock is to positively ID this thing. So enough of this jibber jabber. All right, I think I see where the tracks are. Let's check out down there. We are now at the base of House Rock proper. Right up there is where I gave you my spiel. And like I said, those guys, meaning the Ramblers, didn't seem to think that the shelter he lived at was right under House Rock. They seem to think, if I'm reading their research correctly, they seem to think it was down in this area, somewhere down in between here and the tracks, going this way. But I do want to kind of just check this out a little bit, see what's going on with it, because it's a cool rock. There's a little pocket. Quite the overhang there. Yeah, I didn't realize House Rock, look at that. I didn't realize it was this big. Yeah, so yeah, look at the way those, I guess those are joints, cleavage planes. It's very geometric. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to find the edge, or the edge of the nose of the ridge going down, and then maybe the best bet would just to be kind of try to do a sweeping pattern like this. I mean, it gets pretty steep though. I think it goes vertical again there. So I'm gonna head back over there and then come down. Maybe the first sweep will be underneath this, kind of coming under here like that, all right? Whoa. Aha, here's the shelter, but wow, yeah. Not very big, kind of crumbly. I see something over there. Now it is supposed to be in the almost reach 70 today, so this is gonna be a good day. Right now it's still kind of crisp, so it's perfect weather for going up and down these steep, rocky, really the side of the gorge, side of the lower Susquehanna Gorge here. I think the bugs are pretty much gone, and there is still some foliage, so we kind of have to see through that, but it's not built up. It's not, you know, it's not like 500 degrees. All right, so we're about halfway down the ridge now. You can see the house rock right there. We got all, and there's just, I mean, there's all kinds of caves around here. There's one right there. Let's go check that one out first. Oh, yikes. One here. This is a nice one, it's just not big enough, and the rocks don't look right. Let's peek around here. It looks pretty good right over here, so let's do 180 and head back the other way towards the stream valley.